Let's talk to Brad Cabana. Brad, you're on the air. How you doing?
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
Fine, thanks. You've been preoccupied. We haven't talked for a little while. You've been preoccupied with your legal matters and so on. Nice to have you on board this morning.
Oh, thank you. I've been trying to sort of, stay off the air and for the most part and just listen to what people have to say and wait for my decision. So.
Yeah, when's your decision due? I think somebody mentioned that yesterday.
Well, I don't know when it's due. It's been now, we're into the 8th week of waiting, so.
Oh, yeah, that's what I heard. It was 8 weeks so far of waiting, and that is probably imminent. But we don't know when that's coming down. And what's, just very briefly, just remind people of what the issue was you were addressing in court?
Well, there's two issues. One was the New Dawn agreement with the Innu Nation sanctioning the Muskrat Falls project, and then the other one, and about 75% of my case, I would say, is the water management agreement that's currently undergone.
Yeah. Okay, and you're waiting for, what were you trying to prove there?
Well, and specifically with the water management agreement, that it violates, the power contract and therefore is unconstitutional, and therefore the water management agreement is unconstitutional, which will sort of leave us high and dry with when we build the dam.
All right, okay.
Essentially what's happening with Hydro-Quebec now, I suppose. Yeah,
I was going to say, if you want to relate that to what is present developments, by all means do so. But in any event, go right ahead with your points.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that, first of all, in reference to legal opinions, that's been a hot topic, and I can tell the audience that during my court trial with the government's and Nalcor's teams of lawyers, that they did not produce one legal opinion or one shred of evidence to back up their position on the water management agreement. And that was in court over these very same issues, I suppose, that Hydro-Quebec is now suing them over.
So, that's interesting. So, I don't know what deduction to draw from that. One conclusion to draw from it could be that when the Premier says they have, solid legal opinions, that Quebec doesn't have a case, you're saying that's kind of strange since they didn't raise that or didn't produce them in court on that very issue.
Absolutely, and furthermore, I can assure the audience that I've studied it for a year, almost full time, and I can assure the audience that we have no case. That really, in all honesty, that Hydro-Quebec has us,
by the short hairs.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're in a position where we're not going to win. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen in my case, but it's essentially the same issues as the Quebec case. However, Hydro-Quebec is almost virtually guaranteed to win because it's already decided back in 1984 by the Supreme Court of Canada.
Yeah, well, that was the point I raised earlier without having the knowledge you do and other people do, and that is that our track record in the Supreme Court of Canada when we take on Quebec or Quebec takes on us is dismal. I mean, we lose every time. And even Brian Peckford, who initiated some of these cases earlier, is asking some very serious questions by way of an open letter to the Premier. Okay, so based on your research and your knowledge, when the Premier of the province sort of poo-poos it and brushes it aside, is she living in sort of a cloud cuckoo land, or is she right from a practical standpoint that Quebec, whatever it may have on paper and in theory and as far as legal position is concerned, that really is not going to have any effect on the Muskrat Falls development? What's your take on that?
Well, the best way I can illustrate that, Bill, is by this point. Ms. Dunderdale said here yesterday in her public press statement that that this matter with Quebec would be finished shortly, and it wouldn't take very long. It would certainly be resolved by the end of the year when it's required that the province have its finances in order for the federal loan guarantee.
Right.
However, anybody with a residue of legal knowledge would know that it's going to take months to resolve the initial application for what they're looking for, the declaratory order saying that, the power contract is prominent. Then there's an appeal process through this Quebec's appeals court, and then there's the Supreme Court of Canada appeal process. Right. And there's certainly no way in this world that it will be resolved by the end of the year. And that's a requirement of the federal loan guarantee. So, deduce backwards. If that's not resolved, where does the federal loan guarantee go and play? And if there's no federal loan guarantee, MIRA will be unable to fulfill its side of the bargain because its credit was downgraded 8 months ago.
Yeah.
So, there's a whole domino effect here, and the Premier is just not being honest with the people. I call it almost lies of omission, just not being honest. And that's worrisome for anybody that's sort of had the time available to really research, or legal minds such as yourself.
Yeah, I as I say, I haven't studied it in order to give a legal opinion on it. You need to do what you did, spend full time on it for a considerable period of time to study it up, and I have no intention of doing that. It's hard enough just sort of playing the balancing act of allowing different opinions to come on the air about it. So I don't intend to do that, but I must say that once things start to go in court, as you well know, once you get out of the realm of political discussion and compromise and a political solution, once you're in court, you're talking more than ever. You're talking black and white. You're talking about a decision coming down that can clobber you right between the ears with a crowbar, and I think people are right to be a bit concerned about the blasé attitude of the government.
I think it's beyond scandalous. I've tried to think how a government that, and this is not political, but how a government who claims to stand up for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, to the extreme in some points, could actually put the people in this position. I still can't reconcile that in my mind. Well,
and when you hear that the former premier, who couldn't get out of Newfoundland fast enough and go to BC to carry on his life and profession and so on, but is so concerned, even from several thousand miles away, is so concerned that he's got to bang off an open letter to the premier of the party that he's a member of and supports and was premier of, voicing concerns, then you got to say to yourself, hang on a minute here now, should we be spending hundreds of millions of dollars prematurely on Muskrat Falls? What do you think?
Well, I guess that's almost an academic question now, Bill, because depending on who you listen to, we've already spent $800 million to $1 billion, so, it's hard to know the truth there, but I guess Brian Peckford, above all people, was the premier in 1984 when it went to the Supreme Court of Canada, and he would probably have a really good recollection of what happened.
Yeah. Well, listen, Brad, thank you very much for joining us. It's always a pleasure. People sometimes have a tendency to criticize you and for your direct opposition to many things in the province. I value your opinion. People can make up their minds whether they should put any stock in it or not. That's their own sort of lookout. Is there anything else you want to say before we say goodbye?
Just quickly that the truth will always come out in the end. And just secondly, that I'm proud of my Newfoundland roots. I love Newfoundland, and I'll do everything I can to make sure that the people here aren't hurt, and that includes, of course, me and my family. And when you hear that you are giving comfort to the enemy by your approach, that Quebec is there rubbing their hands with glee, oh my God, we got everyone in Newfoundland all upset, and gosh, they're taking on their government, they want them to stop the Muskrat Falls development. Do you feel like a Quisling? Do you feel like a Benedict Arnold? No, the way I look at it is the traitors, or the Quebec lovers, as they're often referred to, I think those are the people that stand by and say nothing when they know that the people of Newfoundland and Labrador are about to be put in peril. And the ones who love the province and care for the people are the ones who stand up and raise that alarm. All right. Well, thank you very much. Don't be a stranger. Anytime you have anything substantial to add to the ongoing debate, feel free to do so. Thanks, Bill. Nice talking to you. Bye-bye. Anybody who has a comment on Brad Cabana's take, he does not feel like a Benedict Arnold. He doesn't feel like a Quisling. He doesn't feel that he's giving comfort to the enemy. He thinks that, if you read between the lines, is the government of this province who are sort of traitors to the people, to use a strong word, that are sort of letting the people down, spending hundreds of millions of dollars on something that seems to be in some people's minds, seems to be a very dodgy proposition.